As fighting games and video games in general are getting more popular year after year, there are some franchises you simply cannot ignore the legacy of. Street Fighter is one of those titles, and with its recent 6th main series release, is enjoying more success than it ever has. Of course, one of the biggest selling points of Street Fighter's popularity is the iconic characters, and you can't get much more iconic than the first lady of fighting games, Chun-Li. But what makes Chun-Li such an unforgettable trailblazer in the fighting game and video game world? This video is aimed at looking back at the various appearances of Chun-Li in the mainline Street Fighter series, her game plan, and notable tournament results she has achieved over the years. So let's get started with the history of Chun-Li. In February 1991, the landscape of gaming was changed forever upon the release of Street Fighter II: The World Warrior. As a sequel to Capcom's mildly received 1987 release, this game featured a whole host of playable characters, responsive controls, amazing graphics, an unforgettable soundtrack, and more. This roster of iconic newcomers would see a wild jungle beast, a huge wrestler, and a stretchy yoga enthusiast to join the fray. Among them, we had a Chinese martial artist by the name of Chun-Li, known as the strongest woman in the world, who stood out from the pack with her muscular legs, speed, fearsome kick attacks, and deadly spinning bird kick special move. Oh, and those massive spiky bracelets too. Designed by the legendary Akiman, Chun-Li's look was inspired after Tao from the 1983 anime movie Genma Wars Harmageddon, and you can definitely see the influence with the clothing and hairstyle these characters share. As the years and many iterations of Street Fighter II went by, Chun-Li would receive various updates, adding new moves to her arsenal like the Tensho Kyaku up kicks and her Senretsu Kyaku super combo. This super in particular is incredible, as players can make use of the store input bug by inputting the super and holding the final directional input before pressing kick, making it one of the most threatening tools in Super Street Fighter II Turbo. On the competitive side of things, she is considered pretty high tier, and perhaps the most notable Chun-Li player is Oto-chan, a Japanese player from Osaka who has been honing his craft with his brother for around 30 years and continues to win tournaments to this day. We also have to mention Nuki, one of the 5 gods of fighting games who has made multiple EVO Grand Finals in SF2, a true legend of the scene. As Capcom finally moved away from Street Fighter II, it was time for a new chapter in the series. Street Fighter Alpha Warrior's Dreams, or Street Fighter Zero in Japan, was released in 1995 and featured an anime art style, new mechanics, characters, moves, and more. Taking place first in the Street Fighter timeline, Chun-Li's design in this series was slightly different, as she was younger here, sporting a vest and unitard as well as athletic shoes instead of boots. Her moveset was also updated again, adding tools such as her Senenshu overhead, Hazen Tensho Kyaku, and what would become one of her most recognisable moves, the Kikosho. Chun got a really good deal throughout the Alpha series, sitting pretty high in the tier list in Alpha 1 and 2 thanks to her amazing walk speed, normals and combo potential, but wasn't as strong in Alpha 3 as Capcom took away some of her best options in this game. Alpha 3 offers players 3 playstyles, all with different strengths and downsides: A-ism, X-ism, and V-ism. The game is dominated by V-ism characters due to the overwhelming power it provides with its heavy focus on custom combos. Chun-Li, however, is one of the few characters who doesn't have to use V-ism to be used to her max potential, and can be a threat at high level using A-ism, which shares similarities to Alpha 2, and X-ism, which shares similarities to Super Street Fighter II Turbo. 2 games Chun was very strong in. She will also revert to her Street Fighter II costume when X-ism is selected as a fun Easter egg. One of the largest Alpha 2 brackets in recent years was actually held online. Frosty Faustings 13 in 2021 saw 112 players enter for a prize pool of over $1,100. Legends such as John Choi, Justin Wong, and Alex Valle entered the fray, and we even saw a Chun-Li mirror between Raph and Veritas in top 8. Going back in time now to 1998, before there was any online competition to speak of, we saw some of the most historic international Street Fighter rivalries formed around this time. The Street Fighter Alpha 3 World Championship would introduce the wider world to Daigo Umehara, and who would go on to become Mr. Street Fighter himself, Alex Valle. Their finals game would be Akuma vs Ryu, and Chun-Li was rarely seen around this time. but that was all about to change. Alongside the Alpha series, Capcom was also developing the Street Fighter 3 series, but Street Fighter 3 wouldn't have many returning faces. We had Ryu, Ken, and even later on Akuma playable in the first 2 iterations, but it wasn't until Street Fighter 3 Third Strike that we would see Chun-Li appear, but when she did, my word did she make an impact. Regarded as one of the most top tier characters in Street Fighter history, Third Strike Chun is an absolute monster with her fast dash, amazing normals, Kara throw, and outstanding super art to name just a few of her strengths. These strengths of course transitioned into competitive play, with Chun-Li players consistently placing high in almost any tournament you can imagine. Nuki, MOV, Justin Wong, Michael Tan and Shiro Kuro are just some of the greatest players in Third Strike history and have all achieved great success with Chun. In fact, while Third Strike was the main Street Fighter game from 2003 to 2010, there wasn't an Evo or Super Battle Opera in which a Chun-Li player either didn't win or make top 3. In fact, at Evo 2008, the top 5 were all Chun players. To this day, Chun's Third Strike winning ways continue. Just this year at Evo, Umezono won Third Strike with Chun over Cookie's Elena in Grand Finals. Meanwhile, the 18th installment of the biggest Third Strike tournament in the world, Cooperation Cup, went down in May and saw a grand final between 2 teams featuring legendary Chun players. Third Monster with Michael Tan and Team Nuki Children with the namesake fighting game icon Nuki.
That is the end, people.
Good games.
As I said, new gen's coming in.
Yeah.
And I bet on these guys, right?
Yeah. And you know what? I think Michael, he proved himself.
Yep.
Oh, and how can we forget the most legendary fighting game moment of all time? Also featured Third Strike Chun. Sorry, Justin. The early 2000s saw the Street Fighter series go into a bit of a quiet period, and aside from a couple of spin-off games and re-releases, we didn't get a new title until Street Fighter 4 finally landed in arcades in 2008 and on home console in 2009. This series was a back-to-basic approach from Capcom, who wanted the game to feel and look a bit more like Street Fighter 2, as the launch roster featured the original World Warrior cast and all 4 bosses playable. It also added some new mechanics and moves for everyone, so as you can expect, Chun got a glow up as well, using new tools such as her amazing ground game, focus attack dash pressure, and one of the best super attacks in the game, to name a few. Throughout the lifespan of the SF4 games, Chun wasn't as dominant as she was in previous games, sitting around mid-tier at the end of the series. We didn't see too much of Chun-Li in the early days of SF4's competition, but Ricky Ortiz showcased her skills as a legacy Chun player, using her in this game as a backup secondary for her main, Rufus. We saw this at Evo 2010, where she ended up placing 2nd overall, counterpicking Vangeef in top 8 of the tournament. Players such as Yurio, Valmaster and Infiltration also pushed Chun-Li to her limits in Street Fighter 4, with Valmaster qualifying for Capcom Cup and making top 8 with her in 2014, and Infiltration using her in top 8 of Evo 2015. We got a sneak peek at the next Street Fighter game, Street Fighter 5, around 2014 also, but it's safe to say we're all glad this version of Chun was never in the final build. Instead, she would rise again to the top of the tiers for a different reason in Street Fighter 5. Amazing normals and frame data, solid anti-airs, and her new air lightning legs all played a factor into what made her such a strong contender on release, amidst a rocky launch and lackluster reception of the game itself. Despite her being so strong as a character, you would rarely see Chun actually win many tournaments. She would usually place well at Majors, Evo, and even Capcom Cup, but first place more often than not evaded her on the biggest stages. It's also worth noting SF5 brought back many legacy Chun-Li users to play her in the new game, such as MOV, Nuki, and Ricky Ortiz, who ended up placing 2nd with her at Capcom Cup 2016. As with any Street Fighter game, SF5 saw multiple additions and seasons released over the years, with Chun varying in strength, but never really achieving the same heights she did on release. She did receive some new moves during SF5's lifespan, including her Hazanshu as V-Skill 2 and Kikosho as V-Trigger 2, helping her navigate certain matchups in new ways. Towards the end of the game, some of the most active and notable Chuns were Tyrant, Kudo, and returning to qualify for the final Capcom Cup in SF5, Valmaster. Which brings us to the current day and build of Chun-Li in the mainline Street Fighter series, SF6. Street Fighter 6 is an incredible return to form by Capcom, correcting the mistakes from Street Fighter 5's launch and utilizing their brilliant RE engine to make these iconic characters look and play even better than they ever have. Like with most characters in SF6, Chun has a ton of new tools and mechanics at her disposal here, while still feeling familiar. Her new Serenity Stream stance move, which allows her to cancel into a number of options, is perhaps her most notable new feature here. She is also one of the characters who looks very viable when using Modern Mode, a new feature in Street Fighter 6 which allows players to play a simplified version of a character with relaxed inputs. She is also looking very strong in terms of competitive results, with Haitani placing 5th out of over 7,000 entrants using Modern Chun at EVO this year, and Travis Styles qualifying for Capcom Cup through the Oceania CPT. Valmaster is back with Chun again in this game also, currently placing high on the World Warrior France leaderboards. With the future of SF6 looking promising, it's to be seen if Chun will remain competitive and stay in the spotlight. As it stands, she is a very complete character with few flaws, but if you want to hear more about what makes her strong and why you should try her out, be sure to check out our SF6 Pro Player Character Guide right here on Reversal for some pointers from Chun-Li legend Valmaster. Okay, that's all from me today guys. Which version of Chun-Li is your favourite? Maybe it's from a game I didn't even mention. Maybe it's from Marvel vs Capcom or Super Gem Fighter. Do let me know in the comments and I'll see you in the next video. Catch you next time.